So hello, I'm Missy, a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, celebrating victory over a 22-year meth addiction, who struggles with drugs, alcohol, anger, codependency, trust, self-love, unhealthy relationships, while coping with my bipolar along with my depression. I would like to start out with this verse. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Joshua 1:9. Okay. I'm an only child born in Dowagiac, Michigan. My mother was in labor with me for 2 days. My cord was wrapped around my neck. That was the first time God helped me. My mom and my grandparents called me their little blue monkey. I guess my mom should have known then I was going to be a problem child. My mom was a single mother who I grew up not knowing my biological father. My aunt and my grandparents helped raise me while my mom went through nursing school and started her nursing career. I grew up a happy child with a great life. I did Girl Scouts, Daisies through juniors, and I love the outdoors. I attended church here and there, attended Bible school with my best friend Erin and her siblings when growing up. Eventually my mom met a man who I called Dad. We moved from Decatur to Portage, and I started a new life there. It was great. We joined a church called Chapel Hill. I sang in the choir there, and I played sports, and I had lots of friends.
Doing great.
Once I hit middle school, I started experimenting with drugs. And just because I was looking to fit in, be with the cool kids, I really don't know. This was the beginning of me building unhealthy relationships and making bad decisions, I guess you could say. I did my first line at the age of 15. I drank heavily. At the age of 16, I was in my first car accident. Nothing to do with drugs, so just teenage girls in a car. They had to use the jaws of life to get me out, and I was knocked unconscious. Looking back, I can see that God has been touching me my whole entire life, and I'm just now realizing that as I'm writing this testimony. My parents had no clue about my drug habits. My mom was working all the time, and I was good at hiding things from my dad. But soon, me and a friend were arrested at the local mall at 16 for stealing shirts at the local mall. Again, I'm with the wrong people and making the wrong choices. I was getting into fights at school. My grandmother became ill, so my mom and I moved back to Paw Paw to keep me out of trouble and to help with my grandmother. As far as my dad, he stayed in Portage, but we would still see him all the time. I met my kids' father when I was 16. At 17, I was pregnant with my firstborn, Jameson Wayne Timmons. He was perfect. While I was pregnant, my grandmother passed away. That was very hard on me because she was my best friend in the whole entire world. I stopped using while I was pregnant, but as soon as I had him, I was back to using again. Here's another time where God took place in my life, but I was too blind to see him working. 2 months after Jameson was born, I had a really bad car accident in Boston. 20 minutes away from my mom's work. I had rolled my car 3 times. My chest broke the steering wheel, and I pulled the car from the frame itself. I broke my jaw and had severe head trauma. One of my friends came upon the scene of the accident, but he wasn't able to recognize me because my face was a total mess. I was not conscious, and my car was totaled. It wasn't until later that night he found out it was me. He was amazed that I even made it out alive. This is when I should have realized God was there to help me again. Thank you. I was in the trauma unit for 2 weeks, and by God's grace, I was alive. I returned home only to be babysat. My jaw wired shut. I couldn't even hold my own son. I had to be sitting down with pillows underneath me. This accident changed my whole life. To this day, I still have memory issues, and I have a white matter on my brain that affects my decision-making abilities. The following year, I found out I was pregnant with my second son, Dalen Allen Timmons. He was just as perfect. Born in March. I thought he was my weight gaining back from my car accident. But no, I was pregnant. So here I am, 20 years old, 2 boys, still using. Thank God for my mom, my stepdad, and their nana, who all stepped up and helped me with my kids. Without them, I would have lost my kids. The kids' father was in and out of jail and prison due to drugs. I learned how to make drugs from watching him and his friends, and so I also began to sell dope. There was at one point when I got clean, I had just had enough of the craziness. My boys were getting older, and they needed me. They were already missing their dad. Well, that didn't last very long. That lasted about 4 years. Then I went right back to doing everything. I love the money, the lifestyle, the attention from the guys. Whatever I needed, I got because I had what they wanted. I was able to hold down a job at Dollar General for a few years, but then I was fired due to illegally cashing in bottle slips. Then I worked at Subway, but then within a few years, I lost that job too, because I embezzled funds. I was arrested and put on probation. So I was evicted from the home where I was living at. I moved back in with my mom, and I was on misdemeanor probation. It was at this time, Judge McKay told me to go find Jewel and attend Celebrate Recovery. For those of you who don't know who Jewel is, she works with the specialty courts, and she's the founder of the Daily Recovery Zone, and she is also in recovery herself. So I went a few times, but I didn't think it was my thing. At the time, I was still using. I couldn't get a job, so I turned lead for a guy who I thought was a legit caregiver for marijuana. I worked for him for a few months while I was in and out of CR and NA. You see, I didn't have a problem. So one day, I was up north working at this grow that I was told was legal and legit. But as I stepped out of the door, I was surrounded by state police, SWAT, undercovers. I looked up, and just so you guys get it, I walked out of this bar door and I looked up and seen this man standing right in front of me. So I looked up and I asked him if this was Halloween. Because this isn't funny right now. He stated, "No ma'am, sit on the ground right where you're at." I sat immediately. They gathered 6 of us up on a log with a blanket, unhandcuffed. While sitting there, I remembered I had drugs on me. So I stuck it in the hole in a vest that I had in my pocket, or I had a hole in the vest in my pocket, sorry guys. So no one had physically been searched. So when they said we were all going to jail, I asked if I could leave our sweatshirts and vests in the car, lest they would have to take off of us when we got to jail. And to my surprise, they said yes. So off my vest went with the drugs in it. So here I am on probation, and I was arrested and charged with 48 kilos of marijuana. I sat in federal holding in White Cloud, Michigan for 72 hours. After being released, we went back to the road to get our vehicle, and there was my vest with my drugs in it. They never found it. Once back to Paw Paw, I was under constant surveillance, pulled over frequently. My mother's home was raided, along with 4 others simultaneously. She was placed in handcuffs. She had no clue what was going on. My addiction was hurting my mother, who loved me unconditionally. I saw that, and it made me more angry and mad, but I still didn't stop using. It only got worse. I was still using and selling dope when I met this guy I thought he was the love of my life. Once again, there I went, choosing another unhealthy relationship. Together we used and sold dope. We had good times and we had bad, but on the bad days, I made excuses for the both of us. One day, while walking down my road, a local officer had stopped us and said we had warrants. The officer did not even know what the warrants were for, but she took us to jail. So, again, I was arrested and taken to Van Buren County Jail. Where I was lodged for 7 days. My charges were possession of a dangerous drug and delivering charges to a confidential informant. When I got out of jail, I went to the first meeting that I could. When I got out of jail, I went to the first meeting that I could. My boyfriend remained in jail. I should have cut ties with him there, but I didn't. Once again, I held on to an unhealthy relationship. At the sentencing, I had Joel and my best friend, Marcia, by my side. I did not understand anything. All I heard was prison for 3 years. My lawyer asked about drug court. They didn't want to put me in the program because I was high risk. But against all odds, my lawyer got me into the program. This is where God really starts working on me, and I finally started working on myself.
That's right.
I started really attending Celebrate Recovery at Freshwater Church. I got to know Tim, who I call Pops, and Bruce, and Old Man Ray. These men all had a major impact on my faith and the way that I would walk in my faith. We called ourselves the God Squad.
That's right.
And we went to every CR meeting as often as we could. We went almost every day of the week to Paw Paw, Three Rivers, Dowagiac, Decatur, Otsego. I began attending Freshwater Church and serving on Sundays as a door grader. When I got a year clean, I was baptized by Pastor Troy and Pops by my side. I kept serving and I went to the women's gatherings. I really put my focus and my faith on my recovery. I got involved in service work through NA, and along with Jewel and another friend, Amanda, we started the Pathfinders group. The year after I was in drug court, I got a job as a seasonal worker at Ralph Boyle. 2 seasons later, I was hired in as full-time. Then I was promoted to lead to run the seasonal team, and I have been working there now for 5 years.
Great. Woo! You got this, girl.
Okay. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will straighten your paths. Proverbs 3:5-6. I built back relationships I had lost with friends and family. I was able to be present in my boys' life as a clean and sober mom. I made new friends. I changed my people, places, and things. I became honest, open-minded, and willing to find that new way of life. I was very involved with the Daily Recovery Zone. It became my second home because there were people there like me, an addict trying to get and stay clean. At the Zone, I found the people, the love and support. At the Zone, I found the love and support I was looking for through meetings and people who came. Going through drug court had its ups and downs, but for once in my life, I had to follow rules and guidelines. I had to get permission from whom I hung out with. I had to get a sponsor and listen to her. Who wants to listen to somebody, right? It was supposed to be a 15-month program, became a three-year program for me. I'm grateful for that though, because in that time I got to take classes. I earned my recovery coach certificate as well. I learned that the team was here to help me, not hinder me. I even had a warrant pop up for me for racketeering out of Cass County, sent me back to the grow up north. So me, Jewel, and another friend of mine, and our lawyer from drug court went to Cass to get this taken care of. If it had not been for drug court and not having the support of the team there, I would have ignored the warrant. Drug court led me to getting my life back on track, and Celebrate Recovery kept me strong in my faith. I was still dating the man I caught the charge with. He was in prison, while my life was changing. I was growing more and more in my faith and my recovery. By the time I graduated from drug court, I was still on probation, and my boyfriend had come home. People were worried that I wouldn't come around once he came home. I said, "You guys are crazy," but they were all right. After he came home, we came to meetings here and there. It didn't take long for me to put all my focus on him and how I could help him in his mental health. I put all my issues aside. One of my character defects is people pleasing. One night out of nowhere, after 4 years of no drinking for either of us, we decided to drink. Worst mistake of my life. We thought we could have a couple of drinks. Obviously we couldn't. Once we came home, we got into a violent fight. Afterwards, I remember looking at myself in the mirror and saying, "Is this love?" No, it's not. How am I going to explain this one? Mind you, I had never been in a relationship with any type of abuse at all. I told people I got into a sledding accident. I don't think anybody believed me. After that, our relationship just got worse, and our faith in each other was gone. But me being me, I stayed with him. I thought we could work through these things. Until one day before I went to work, another incident occurred. It occurred with such words of harm that I had to call the police and have a PPO placed on him. But me, still being me, after a few months, I began talking to him again. He was getting help, so I went to the court and asked them to drop the order. It was granted, but he could not come to my home or my place of work. I thought we were working through our things, but really, we weren't. He was cheating on me right underneath my nose. He had left the state, and I didn't know until a friend had told me what was happening behind my back. It wasn't until one night at New Beginnings Church that he repeatedly called me, and that I finally stood up for myself. And I told him I knew everything, and that I was done. God puts you in the right exact place at the right exact time when you have hard things to come to terms with. And if I hadn't have been at New Beginnings that night with my family of faith, I wouldn't have slammed that door shut. I knew I had the support of God and all the surrounding people. That was one of the hardest things I had to do. After I hung up, I told Pops and Joel and Pastor Dan, who ministers New Beginnings, what had just taken place. We went into the prayer room and we held hands and prayed. We prayed that I would slam that door shut on that relationship. And that I would have new doors open for God's love to keep me going through His doors.
That's right.
And this was a new beginning for me. And how great was it that I was at New Beginnings Church to start my new beginning.
That's right.
I dove back into my recovery again and began attending church. For I can do everything God asked me to do with the help of Christ, who gives me the strength and the power. Philippians 4:13. Keep a close watch on all that you do and think. Stay true to what is right, and God will bless you and use you to help others.
That's right.
1 Timothy 4:16.
You're doing great.
My mother and I now have an apartment next to my best friend for the past year. I got a new sponsor after my drinking relapse, and I am now 6 years free from meth.
Woo!
1 year free from alcohol, and 1 year free from an unhealthy relationship. Coming back and trusting people again is really hard for me. Trusting myself has been even harder. I focused on myself and in my step work and meetings again. I just started I focused myself and my step work in the meetings again. And I started being the Missy people know and love. The one who suits up and shows up.
That's right. Yes.
I joined the women's step study at CR after 6 years of finally coming. I needed to do something for my spiritual well-being on my faith side. So here I am, 2 weeks shy of completing the women's CR step study. Through working the steps in both programs, I have learned to let go and let God. I have a better understanding of my hurts and habits and hang-ups and what parts I played in it all. A few days before my birthday this year, I fell ziplining and bruised my tibia bone. This put me in a boot and off my foot for months. During this time, I had to learn how to be still. Well, if you know me, I don't sit still. So unless I'm at a meeting, and sometimes I don't even sit still then. It put me in a depression, not being able to go and do the things that I wanted and not being able to do things by myself or for myself. At first, I didn't like it, but I found that once I opened up and I told my recovery family from CR what was going on, I was lent a knee cart so I could get around better. It bothered me to let people see me down and hurt, but it also motivated me to get out and do more. Just because I have a boot on my foot doesn't mean that I'm stuck. I had to put my big girl pants on and get out and about and let people and let myself see that even though I have this going on with my foot, I can still do and go places. Nothing, I mean nothing, will stop me from my recovery.
Yay.
Considering the things that I used to do to get my drugs, having a boot on my foot is nothing compared to that. To say that I have come this far is unbelievable and a miracle of God. One thing that is certain though, God has been there for all of it. He walked by my side even when I didn't know he was there. To look back and read my journals and look at my photos from my journey from the past, present, and today, I can say, wow, I went from being angry, lonely, no faith, to being a warrior, a child of God, a person people can come to for help now, a responsible, productive member of society, a great mom, a cheerleading friend, woo! a great coworker, and an awesome aunt and daughter. No matter what life throws at you, know that God is there. Helping always. Even when you don't think that He's working, He's working. I'm living proof of that. So this is my story. Never give up on yourself, no matter how long it takes. I love you, and God always loves you.
Missy!
And I would like to close with this verse. They cried to the Lord in their trouble, and He saved them from their distress. He brought them out of darkness and broke away their chains. Psalms 107:13-14.